Our musician, our performer for the week is our very own Brian Turner, UbiJurassic. That is our community manager over in North Carolina. He's going to be playing a couple songs for you later on in the stream. And we're not having any other pre-recorded segments today because our guest in the chat, I think we're gonna be able to fill the hour at least. With us today, we are going to have Tony Dickinson, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, which we'll get into very soon. On the way, we're going to have some raffles. That's coming up. If you have any questions for myself, for Tony, make sure you hit up UbiJurassic in the chat. He'll get those questions out to us, and we will ask him towards the end of the stream. And now, let's go ahead and say hello to Tony Dickinson. Tony, hello, and welcome to the stream.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure being here.
It's great to have you here. So right off the bat, let's talk a little bit about who you are. So in my notes, I have you are a studio musician. You are the touring bassist with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. You are the guitarist of the Tiberian Sons, which we'll talk about very soon. You work with Silva. You have a YouTube channel, which is Tony Dickinson BG, and you do music production for television and games and events.
Yes.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that just about covers it.
All right.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm tour bass with the Trans-Siberian Orchestra East Coast Band, which if you guys are, some of you are on the East Coast, you might have seen me. If you have seen TSO in the past 3 years, you've probably seen me play bass on that. I have a couple other bands, most musicians are involved in a bunch of things, right? But Silva is my own like pop funk thing because I love playing like funk on bass. I play with Soto, which is kind of like a rock metal band with Jeff Scott Soto as the lead vocalist, who sings in TSO West's band, and Jeff's had a very long career. And Tiberian Sons is my like video game remix symphonic metal band that I started after, because I've been doing video game remixes for a long time, and I started that with a few of my friends, and just recently we actually produced the remastered soundtrack for the new Command and Conquer Remastered collection. So that was a
pretty rad.
That was a big thing for us because I grew up with Command and Conquer and playing those games and everything. So it was a blast doing that remaster.
So I wanted to talk. I think the way that this all came about with you being able to join us here is I think we can probably credit the Tiberian Sons for that.
Yeah.
Because you were introduced to me through Brian Shu, through my understanding the sort of music and games circuit, that combination of things where he worked with Super Soul Bros, and I believe met you through the Tiberian Sons playing at an event.
Yeah, so basically, actually, the first year that the Tiberian Sons played at MagFest, and the first year was the same as the first year that Super Soul Brothers played, and so that was like 2015 or something. So we met those guys. I introduced myself. I kind of like kept in contact with them for a while, and like slowly over the years, we actually eventually started collaborating a little bit. So I've done I did a remix of Mushroom Hill from Sonic and Knuckles that I got all these guys to play on, including Brian and Robbie and Alex. And right now I've actually been working with them mixing some songs that they're working on for a video game. I don't know if I can talk about that right now, so I'll play it safe.
Just there's something's happening there.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, and go ahead. I just lost my train of thought for a second.
Okay, no problem. So do you consider yourself primarily a bassist?
Yes. I do play guitar. So bass, it's the one I've been playing more professionally. I feel like I'm a bit more like versatile in terms of musical styles on bass. Of course, I play guitar in Tiberian Sons because I'm the primary arranger in the Tiberian Sons as well. And when I was forming it, it was like, okay, I can do bass, I can do guitar. It might actually be easier because our drummer lives in the same state that I do, so he and I can play together. And so I thought, like, well, it actually makes more sense for me to play guitar. I already know how to play the songs, and we can get a friend of mine, Max, who actually also works for Ubisoft, and he works on the Rainbow Six online platform. I'll have to, he's involved. But so we get Max to play bass, and then when we do recordings, like our album or the Command and Conquer stuff, Max and I kind of like split bass on the recordings.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. And I want to get back to the Tiberian Sons and
Sure.
that whole realm. But let's take a bit of a step back. And just what was your when did you start playing bass? What was your experience? What made you want to really explore that as your primary instrument?
Well, I've been playing music for a while. My mom was a music teacher, so I had at least
Oh,
I'd been
okay.
around music pretty much my whole life. But it was like my elementary school. I think about like fifth grade. Like they require you to pick up an instrument or do choir or something. And at the time, my brother, my older brother Adam, he's like 4 years older than me. He had like a garage band, and he could never keep a bass player around. So I thought like, well, maybe I could like pick up bass and learn how to play it, and maybe I could just play in his band. So I started playing like upright and orchestra, and then the following
Yeah.
year I transitioned over to bass guitar for jazz band. And
Mhm.
at that point, once I started playing bass guitar, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do.
This is
I love
the-
it, and I just like played it nonstop
yeah,
for.
yeah. So were you able were you able to play in your brother's garage band?
We did. I mean that band was whatever.
I just
I mean,
want to make sure
it didn't go anywhere.
you got in there
Yeah,
before.
it was. Yeah. It sounds more impressive than it is, but it really wasn't anything. But I then like formed like my own band in high school. Like I had a male band in high school and stuff like that. But I was always involved in like jazz band and like marching band, and then like on the off season, um, between like marching band seasons, at least in our school district, the marching drums and like the pit instruments like the xylophones and stuff do their own, like it's called winter line in a lot of places,
Yeah.
where it's just like it's pretty much the same thing like in a gym, and it's kind of more theatrical. And um
Interesting.
so that was actually a big important thing for me, because that's where I discovered a lot of like progressive music that I'm into now.
Okay. Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you do much arranging in that time when you were in high school with those groups, or was that sort of a
uh
bug that you started looking into?
the ranging thing really kind of kicked into gear like just after I graduated high school, when I got into
Okay.
Dwelling of Duels, which is a video game remix competition sort of thing. I did a lot of those. And that's kind of like how I cut my teeth and like learned how to do music production and stuff like that. And Dwelling of Duels is where I arranged a lot of the songs that led to the Tiberian Sons. Um, yeah, yeah.
And so how did I know you mentioned Command and Conquer. Is that was that franchise kind of pivotal in capturing your early interest in video games, or at least video game music?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like Red Alert, Command and Conquer Red Alert was definitely a huge game for me. I'd start playing it when I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, something like that.
Yeah.
And what was really special about Command and Conquer was that it was one of the earliest games to kind of have like real audio, right? Like it was
Right.
not,
Like a recorded orchestra.
yeah. And so
Right.
like it's like hearing those recordings in a game, like Frank's original stuff, like in that game, was really kind of a special moment. And particularly with like Red Alert, like Hell March, everybody knows that one. Like when they play that game,
Right.
I pretty
Right.
much looped that one over and over and over again. And so that did lead to I love those soundtracks, and I love Frank's music, and he's a great composer, and led to that inspired me to eventually do the Hell March remix, which would lead to me working with Frank, because I would then
Mhm.
email Frank and show him this remix and talk to him about production. And he's a good guy, and he responds to all of his fans. Um and yeah, and then that eventually in a roundabout way led to us playing at MagFest and then working on the
Nice.
soundtrack. So
And
yeah.
when did you start doing the remixes for video games? Was that college, or was that back in high school?
It started just like at the end of high school. I think like the first
Okay.
DoD entry that I did was like a Mega Man metal remix that like I think I was just about to graduate my senior year. And then after that I kept on doing it. And I got more deep into it in college. And then at the end of college, it's actually one of my video game remixes kind of got me the attention of Warner Chappell production music.
Yeah.
And so that actually kind of got me the job, got me working with those guys. So after college, I spent a lot of time doing some like commercial music, library music, stuff like that. Stuff that I'd have to kind of like ramp down the video game remix thing a little bit so I could focus on that.
And when you started doing the video game remixes, was that all just taking elements from your laptop and maybe keyboards, or when did you start incorporating live instrumentation
From the
into those
beginning.
remixes?
From the
That
beginning,
was from the
live
beginning.
instrumentation is really important to me personally.
Mhm.
And actually, the Dwelling of Duels thing, one of the kind of rules is that you have to, like, at least the main instrument has to be
Okay,
live. It really puts an
gotcha.
emphasis on live instrumentation. And I definitely came from like a background of like progressive rock, progressive metal, jazz, fusion, stuff like that. A little less of the like maybe the electronic or DJ scene. Not that
Mhm.
there's anything wrong with that. I was just like, my background coming from that time was a little bit more like playing my instrument, and I love playing instruments. It's it's a blast. So
Right.
I always want to put something live in one of my recordings.
Okay. Cool. So you worked as a session musician, a
Hmm.
studio musician. That is a career that I find fascinating.
Hmm.
So what is the process like for a studio musician? Do you tend to work? I see. It looks like you have a pretty rad setup behind you. Uh, is
Yeah.
is that where you do most of your recording, or do you record in a specific studio? How is that organized?
Yeah, most of my stuff actually happens like right here
There.
in front
Okay.
of my computer. The internet makes a lot of things possible. I
Mm.
have done stuff in the studio before, uh, but generally what happens is that the composer will send me like it, some composers send me like real rough works in progress, which makes it a little
Yeah.
harder. And then,
Yeah.
but some will send me like pretty much finished stuff. And generally the composers are just going to give you like a really vague idea of what they want. Some will kind of like write out like a sort of melody in MIDI to kind of follow along.
Yeah.
Some like kind of play guitar and they'll kind of like record what they're thinking of, but like you don't take that. I learned pretty early on that's like you don't take it that literally. You kind of have to do like a degree of mind reading and
Yeah.
like having enough knowledge and know-how and um, enough familiarity with different genres to um, put together like what you think the composer is looking
Right.
for, right?
That
So
that blows my mind, Tony. That
yeah.
that you're like the fact that you're not given just sheet music that
Oh,
you
dude,
have to read.
nobody gets
Uh,
no. I don't get anything. I don't get anything. I get an MP3.
and an
Sometimes I get a
idea.
melody to play over, but generally they just let me kind of like do my thing. And so like
Okay.
especially like working with different composers over time, then they just trust that when they give a
Yeah.
track to me, I'll do the job.
So are you when you send them apart, are you typically sending them a piece, or are you sending them several ideas?
Uh, I generally just do like the song start to finish, but not different
Mhm.
versions.
Yeah.
I will probably I can have between like 8 to 16 or 20 guitar tracks of different things that are kind of layering, and I try to make sure that they all work together. And then there's always only just one bass track, so I always do bass as well. But lots of guitar tracks. It's really easy to just layer guitars on top of each other like endlessly. And then I'll just send them all the guitar tracks and I let them choose what they want, and then we'll just cut out what they don't want to use, and that's up to them because I'm not the composer.
Because at that point, your hands are yeah,
Yeah,
your
right.
hands are free. But so is there usually much back and forth, or do they send you the idea and maybe a melody? You send them the piece, and they say, "Thank you, great job," and
Uh,
that's it.
well, in the beginning, for sure. In the beginning, when I'm working with somebody, there can be like a little bit of back and forth, but generally, like a lot of these composers work out something that's like makes enough sense to me that I'm just like, okay, I know what they're trying to do here.
And I
And
assume
then
the more you work with an individual composer, the
right,
better idea
right.
you have of their
Like my
taste. Okay.
very first session, or one of my very first sessions when I just started doing it, like I recorded literally what the MIDI file was, and the guy was like, "No, I don't want that. I don't like that. That's too boring." And it's just like, well, you
Yeah.
wrote it. I mean, So he's like, but then what he said to me right after that actually changed my perspective completely. He's like, I'm giving you Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you need to make a metaphorical orchestra from that. So that actually makes a lot of sense. So,
That's
but again,
amazing.
a lot of it is on the session musician to have enough stylistic knowledge and
Yeah.
be good enough with their Axe effects or their Kemper or their amps or whatever to get the job done and to play authentically. So, I mean, what helps me is that I've played in a lot of cover bands and stuff in my life. So playing lots of different music and just listening to it and absorbing a lot of different music, just anything that you can do helps you get that job done.
So those like stylistic chops just developed after playing all kinds of music. It sounds like you have pretty tremendous kind of creative freedom within within boundaries, obviously,
Right.
within sort of tonal and
Right.
melodic boundaries. But it sounds like you're trusted by the people that you work with to sort of make the part that you would want to make.
Right.
Which is
the point though in a session is that I don't I might have like freedom to kind of do what I want, but I shouldn't necessarily do what I want to do. I should be doing what the song needs. Like
right.
that's the most important thing, right? And that does take practice, right? It does take a lot of practice, and it does take some back and forth. But most importantly, what the song needs is what you have to do. And then from my composer experience, that also provides insight into what I need to do, right? Like I can
Yeah.
do a shred solo if I want, but it's never going to be used, right?
Right. Right.
And 19 out of 20 times that's not going to be stylistically appropriate.
Right.
So
Right.
sometimes the most appropriate thing is just hitting eighth notes on the root
Yeah. Yeah.
on your guitar. Sometimes that's just what, as boring as that might be, if that's what the song calls for, that's what you got to do.
I mean, I imagine, and I hope this analogy isn't too far out there. But say you're a tattoo artist, you're working in a tattoo shop. Flash tattoos are what pays the bills, especially when you're establishing the studio. But then you'll have people come in for your style who are more trusting of you to sort of be free and create what you want outside of the boundaries of the very simplistic, accessible Flash. Is that?
I mean, I have no tattoos, so I've never
Also
actually been in that situation. But I'll trust you that metaphor makes sense.
yeah, well, I make a lot of metaphors. I
Sure.
say a lot of things, and I don't
That was
cite
cool.
any sources ever. So we just always assume that I'm probably right,
Yeah.
unless you directly contradict me. So say somebody out there in the chat is interested in doing some session work. What's sort of the bare minimum knowledge they should have?
In almost any situation, not just session work, and like when I'm teaching my own students, like the number one thing I like tell everybody to do is to go work on their relative pitch. And
Okay.
if you guys at home don't know what relative pitch is, it's your ear and its ability to discern like intervals, right? The space between notes, or chords or scales. Like you don't have to have like perfect pitch in order to have like a really good ear and be able to like play through a whole song. Perfect pitch is kind of something you're born with, but relative pitch is something that really anybody can develop. And so if you can like practice, practice your scales, practice your chords, practice intervals, and being able to identify those, like music kind of just like unlocks for you. And that when you're just listening to a song, then you start to hear like the chord progressions and everything, and you can just learn from that, just learn by listening. And having a really fast ear is really important with session work, because you got to do stuff fast, right? I pretty much
Right.
get all my sessions done in like hour and a half. When I first started doing it, I was probably like 3 hours. But as I've gotten better at it, and like I've cut down the time. And having a fast ear and knowing, like, being able to find your key center really quickly, and then being able to hear the chord progressions and all of that is, I think, the most important skill you can develop. And that applies not just to session work, but to jamming with another band.
Yeah.
Or improvisation. And then relative pitch also helps you develop like your brain's ear, like your ability to kind of like process music within your mind, which is, again, is just as an important quality of music.
That sounds like the perfect answer. Thank you, Tony. We're gonna ask you to sit tight for just a moment.
Cool.
Right now, we are going to do our first giveaway of the stream. So Tony, we're back with you very shortly. Everybody in the chat, if you have some questions for Tony, make sure you hit up UbiJurassic in the chat, maybe after the raffle, so that it doesn't get lost in the mix. But right now, if you are interested in winning the first of our Ernie Ball prize packs, please listen to UbiJurassic for your instructions so that you can win a copy of everything that is now on your screen. You're going to get 2 sets of strings for Ernie Ball. That is a 6-string set and a 4-string set for your bass. You're going to get a peg winder for Ernie Ball, as well as a black Ernie Ball guitar strap, a package of Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes. You will also receive 12 picks from Ernie Ball and 3 Spectrum Plectrum picks from us here at Rocksmith. So all of that can be yours if you listen to UbiJurassic's instructions and happen to be our lucky winner. If you win, you will get a whisper from Brian, that is UbiJurassic. He will get your name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. As we've been saying for the past few months, we are holding on to all of that information right now until we get back into the studio and can send out all of these prizes. So we thank you for your patience, and we apologize for the delay in getting these out. We do ship internationally. Just make sure you split up your address line by line to make it that much easier for me personally. I thank you. Right now, I'm very happy to introduce for the first time performing, second time performing. Brian performed with us when he was in the studio back in January. So for the second time performing with us, here is Brian Turner, aka UbiJurassic. I'll be back live right after that.
Oh, hey! What's going on, guys? It's Brian Turner, but I'm also known as UbiJurassic, your community manager on Rocksmith, and also the shepherd of Moobot, the guy that's held way too many guitars in his hands. I'm gonna drop it, I'm gonna drop it, I'm gonna drop it, I'm gonna drop it, I'm gonna drop it! And probably a few other things, like the guy who put a guitar mount on his wall and tried to tell you how to drill holes in your wall, which, maybe not a great idea, but today I'm your community music guest, and I'm excited to show off what I've been able to learn with Rocksmith. Originally, my music expertise comes from playing drumline, and very casually I've been learning guitar over the years. But it wasn't until I started on Rocksmith that I actually started committing a lot more time to it. And I've been able to learn a lot of songs that I've loved for years and years, and also been able to discover a few favorites. So today I'm going to be playing Poker Face by Lady Gaga. And then my second song will be Shimmer by Fuel. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Hold 'em, let 'em hit me, raise it, baby. exceptional performance.
And thank you very much to Brian Turner. That once more was Lady Gaga's Poker Face. Brian was playing the lead chart there, which is mainly the vocal melody. Right now, we're going to do a song pack giveaway. It seemed like it would be remiss if I didn't give away 5 copies of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra song pack. So if you're in the chat right now live and you want to win one of these 5 copies, please listen to UbiJurassic's instructions so you can see how you can win. In the song pack, we've got A Mad Russian's Christmas, Christmas Canon Rock, Christmas Eve, Sarajevo 1224, O Come All Ye Faithful with O Holy Night, and Wizards in Winter. All of those can be yours if you are one of the 5 lucky winners. Right now, we're going to go back to Brian Turner, who's going to perform Shimmer by Fuel. I'm back live with Tony Dickinson right after that.
She calls me from the cold, just when I was low, feeling short of stable. All that she intends, and all she keeps inside isn't on the label. She says she's ashamed, can she take me for a while? Can I be a friend? We'll forget the past, or maybe I'm not able, and I break at the bend. Here and now, will we ever be again? 'Cause I have found all the shimmers in this world are sure to fade away again.
Amazing performance.
Alright, so that was Poker Face by Lady Gaga on lead from the Lady Gaga song pack. And then that was Shimmer by Fuel, also on lead from Variety Song Pack 21. I don't have a Twitch or anything to plug like that, but I do want to go ahead and take this time to thank our community members. Thank you for coming to the stream every week, and also thank you for sharing your stories with us about using Rocksmith. In the same way that Rocksmith has continued to inspire you to learn and master the guitar, you continue to inspire us with your stories about using Rocksmith. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I want you guys to be safe out there, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you next week.
And thank you to you, Brian Turner. And we are back live for today's Rocksmith developer stream. I am still your host and the community developer on Rocksmith, Douglas Lilly. And with us today, I want to reintroduce our guest, Tony Dickinson. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Back to the show. Hello. So when we left, we were talking about session work. Now I'd like to switch back a bit to the video game music. When you decide that you want to try to tackle a song from a game, what's your first instinct? Are you more drawn to the music, or do you have to be more of a fan of the franchise, a fan of the game? What's sort of the first?
There's plenty of songs that I've remixed where I've actually never played the game.
Oh, okay.
I just
Okay.
I just have heard the song at one point or another, or somebody shows it to me, and there's always has to be something that like inspires me to do it, right? Something that like when I listen to the song, something just clicks, and I immediately like know what to do. That's generally when I start working on a remix. It's hard for me to get going on something that's just like do this in this style, and if I'm not feeling it, I'm probably not going to do it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you know, like different video game songs can hit me in different ways, and I've tried to do all sorts of different genres with these remixes.
Yeah.
I mean, like the remix thing is a good way, I think, for me to kind of try out different genres and producing them and see what goes into that.
Have you are you able to pinpoint any of the remixes where you've had an idea, you've kind of developed this idea through the course of making the remix, and you're like, that's something I would like to revisit and kind of work into another project? Be that just a specific style of arranging, weird meter play that video game music can be good at?
Well, yeah, I would say certain remixes have given me different ideas to kind of like bring into other projects. I think one of my earliest remixes was a remix of Marble Garden Zone from Sonic 3, and that kind of like overall groove, like overall like kind of like funk rock groove, kind of was an initial roadmap to me writing the first songs in my Silva project, for instance, and learning orchestral like programming and stuff like that that translates over to like hybrid trailer music that I'll do for Winter Chapel or something like that.
And I mentioned to you earlier the sort of the unusual feedback loop where you're taking music from video games and you're remixing it and sort of reinterpreting it, but you are also producing some music for video games, for television. What's sort of a day in the life of a producer in that aspect, and how does that compare to a day as a session player?
Well, in both the case of like writing for library stuff or commercial stuff or TV stuff or session stuff, it's every project is going to be different, and a lot of it has to do with what the producers want, right? Like producers were like, hey, we want like one of the first albums I did for Winter Chapel is just a guitar rock album, and then they're like, well, that's really cool. Why don't you try doing like an indie rock commercial thing next? And then so I would do that, and then a lot of it is just dependent on what is selling and what isn't for a library music company. So there's really no real pattern to it, and you kind of just it's got to be up for anything. So it kind of comes back to like absorb a lot of music, right? And you never know like what opportunities are going to come up. You should try to say yes to most opportunities that come your way, especially as a musician.
Yeah, yeah. What is there? Is there as much of the sort of mind reading when creating library tracks as there is when you are creating a part as a session musician? Like
Uh,
when a producer says, yeah, when they say, "Give me some indie rock,"
right.
are you?
Yeah. Like so, some albums that I've done are very vague, right? Just do 6 indie rock songs, and
Yeah,
then it's just kind of up to me to maybe go listen to some indie rock and feel like, okay, maybe I can just kind of do something like this. And it's a pretty common practice to go find like temps, like
yeah,
songs that are kind of like modeled after when you're doing a library thing. But there are other projects that I've done. Like for instance, I rearranged like some of the music for uh, the ESPN NBA like music package. I did a few of those years ago, where it's like I had to use the melody. I had to use the melody, I had to use the chords, and it was up to me to kind of like come up with the style and make it feel a little modern, at least
sure.
modern for like 2016.
Yeah,
So it was kind of like I ended up kind of doing like a sort of hip hop, sort of like Imagine Dragons sort of thing,
okay.
but it was still kind of like this little more old school like 80s sports theme mixed in with that.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. And yeah, let's talk about Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So
Right.
you have been playing bass with the group since 2017.
Hmm.
How did that happen?
Well, actually, YouTube. It's a funny story. So,
YouTube.
the very first YouTube cover that I put up was song "Domination" by a progressive metal band called Symphony X, and that was actually about the same time I started doing the video game remix thing too. Um, and the management, the accountant in TSO's management found that video and sent it to the artist recruiter, basically. Like TSO's
Yeah,
working with a lot of different artists kind of all the time. They're constantly looking for singers and guitar players and stuff like that. And when the band's founder, this guy Paul O'Neill, he one of his big philosophies was that because nowadays like labels, they don't, like they don't build a band from the ground up. Like if you're going to work with a label, you kind of have to pretty much have already established your own following. And so Paul thought he kind of took it upon himself to find like young talented artists and kind of like work with them and try to build them that way. And so I was one of those people that worked with the band in some sort of capacity since like 2011. And I met our other guitar player Connor in Tiberian Sons. He also had worked with TSO, and so I had been with TSO in some capacity since about 2011. And then when the job
okay.
when the job opened up for the East Band in 2017, still had a audition for it, but that's how I got it.
But you got the audition through your YouTube video. So yeah,
Mhm.
again, I guess put yourself out there if you've got something to say, if you got some work to show.
Yeah,
That seems
yeah,
like some advice we could maybe draw from that
absolutely,
discussion.
absolutely.
So we talked just before the stream started briefly about uh, that gig. It's a very seasonal. It's
Mhm.
locked in to a specific time frame each year. Uh, how does that start? Is there sort of like I almost picture it just because we have I guess a similar background in marching band. I sort of see it as like a planning stage where you're getting together, getting to the music, practice the music, and then you incorporate uh, the other show elements,
Mhm.
which I don't know how much that changes from year to year.
So the planning stage kind of happens year round. I'm not involved
Okay.
in it. I
Right,
just play the
right.
bass.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's like the planning happens kind of year round. They have like the stage designer and the management and like Paul Neal's daughter now. Paul Neal passed away in
Mhm.
2017, but his daughter kind of like took his place. They talk about it year round and they always kind of like um and they always kind of they take some time to like kind of think like what are we going to do for the stage, what are we going to do for the show, what's our set list. Nothing's ever finalized until we actually get to the rehearsal. I think like the stages are probably fully designed out because they have to have that figured
Right.
out before we get to the arenas. But we all get to Omaha is where we rehearse, and both bands, West and East, are set up in the same arena. So we have west stage and east stage on opposite sides of the arena, and the stages have to be constructed, and they have to be calibrated, and the visuals have to be ironed out, and all that stuff. And so East Band gets there actually a few days earlier because we have to travel to get to our first show. But West Band's first show is at the arena that we rehearse at.
Okay.
So the set list by the time we're there is mostly figured out. Like they always give us like what show we're going to be doing, whether it's like Christmas Eve and Other Stories, or past few years we did the Ghosts of Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know those. The second half of the show, we know there's certain songs that we know we're definitely going to play, like Wizards of Winter. We play every year, or we play Requiem, or we do our Sarajevo reprise. But like there's always like a handful of songs that kind of might get pulled out and swapped with something else just until they get a set list that works. And then we just rehearse pretty much the set like at 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock, like start to finish, for about 2 weeks. And that's pretty much like our show schedule as well, like 3 and 8. Most of our shows are double days. So we play like 2 shows on most of our show days.
So that whole time period, the whole time that between rehearsal and the end of the tour, like that is you are working.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much the same schedule every year. 2 weeks, and we always get like Monday and Tuesday off. And our shows tend to be like single show Wednesday, single show Thursday, double Friday, double Saturday, double Sunday. So 8 shows in a row is our average week before we get days off.
I mean, this seems for what is a rock group, it seems like it runs much more like a touring musical group where everything is much it's a lot more structured than I would imagine a more typical. Now I haven't talked to a lot of people who play in arenas, so that might just be some ignorance on my part, but the structure seems like it would be nice to be able to rely on from year to year for that.
Yeah, I mean, TSO first and foremost is a band, and it's like it's one big band, right? That splits apart, and then because we're a Christmas show and you have to cover a lot of ground, right? And we have kind of a limited capacity to do it. I mean, certainly the musical thing is a comparison, which makes sense if only for like out of necessity, where it's like because we have to do things so quickly, things have to be really really structured and really figured out. But yeah, I mean, we are a band. The production is it is a pretty tight ship that gets run when we do it. But that's that's how we have to do it.
Right. You mentioned having different shows. So does that cover? You mentioned the set list, so it covers the majority of the set list. I imagine there's a narrative arc that incorporates the set design, lights that's different from show to show. How much of that do you need to be aware of, like beyond just the set list? How much do you need to sort of be aware of and work within the set design, perhaps costuming or wardrobe, or is that all you?
They figure out the wardrobe. We do like for the first set, we have like really it's kind of a tuxedo sort of thing, but it's kind of like a hybrid between like the first TSO uniform and then the one that was worn from like 2012 to 2017 or so. But the wardrobe was figured out. In the second set, we generally like take off our jackets and we kind of go like roll up our shirt sleeves, and some of the guys have just like cutoffs because they got huge biceps. I don't quite yet, but we have a little bit more freedom with like the second half of the wardrobe. We're aware of the story. We are definitely aware of the story. Our job is to, like, when we're moving around the stage, like with the East Band, we're pretty active and we like engaging with the fans, and we try to move, like interact in a way that matches the energy of the song. Like Mad Russian's Christmas, we are just side to side, just running back and forth.
Cartwheels and
Yeah. Like first snow, like Roddy and I kind of like try to get the crowd up because we're at the front of the stage. Joel and Chris tend to go out in the audience and go and interact with people for Christmas Eve Sarajevo. That's kind of like my big moment. I like to be in the center of the stage, and that's where I do like all my really crazy moves.
Yeah.
But then like for something that's slower, like with a vocalist, like a vocal solo piece, probably we don't move that much. It should not be about us, right? It should be about the vocalist.
Right. Time to pull back. Let somebody else have the light. Cool.
Mhm.
I have some questions from our chat
Okay,
that I would like to
cool.
get into.
Yeah, let's do it.
We have from Toy Machine SH wants to know, what video game would you most want to be involved in for a soundtrack? I have an idea. Let's hear it.
Oh, geez. Man, I honestly would have loved to be part of the Final Fantasy VII remake. Actually, that might not be like the expected answer. I mean, like I love that soundtrack, and like One Winged Angel is one of my favorite songs of just ever.
Right.
I would love to do the, like, if this Command and Conquer remaster is successful, then fingers crossed we can do Tiberian Sun and Red Alert 2. But that's that's up to the sales and everything. So go buy the game. But any Sonic game, I would just love to be part of, because Sonic's a big thing for me.
That checks
What
out.
would you think I would be part of?
I mean, I kind of assumed you would work more with Command and Conquer, but that's from a very limited insight into what you've
Right.
your background. Question from Rockmom81: are there different musicians on the East and West Coast bands?
Yes.
Are all the musicians different?
Yes. So there's it's
well, I guess they're playing simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't rehearse simultaneously. There are two productions. Right. And then so like West goes and does their route, East does their route, and it's pretty consistently that it's like this group and this group. We don't I won't go to the West Coast for like 1 year.
You're not gonna like
that.
swap places with.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent for a pretty long time, like who the core is of each band. So, but I think that answers it. Yeah, it's pretty much just the same.
All right.
It's the same.
And question from Tone Wolf Theo. This is more dealing with the production or session work. How do you deal? And hopefully you don't have to deal with this very often, but how do you deal with angry clients or people who want way too much from you, or maybe expect too much of your time? If that's something that happens.
I'm lucky that I have not had to deal with too many difficult people. I think that I have been fortunate enough that these people trust me to get the things done. I think one important thing, maybe when I actually undercharge some of my new clients just to make sure that it's like that I get something pretty solid to them quickly and that they're satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like building the relationship first and earning that trust by doing a few songs with them, and not being like delivering something that's of like a all right quality, and then you charge them like $500 for it, right? So you probably won't be worked with again.
Right.
But I've actually been pretty fortunate to not have to deal with too many difficult people. I wish I had more to say on that.
I honestly, I don't, because that I'm glad that you haven't had that experience.
Yeah.
At least not too often. I think, and I believe this next question is for you as a fan of music. This comes from the SML podcast. What is your dream concert lineup? I think I'm understanding the question correctly. I could be wrong. They'll let me know in the chat if I'm wrong.
Oh dear. Dream concert lineup. It's gonna have to depend on the genre, I think. I mean, oh boy. I would say there's like a metal. I will say, one of the hardest like tour didn't come through my town situations for me was when like Gigantour 1 was Megadeth, Nevermore, Symphony X, and Dream Theater, were
Yeah.
like 4 of my favorite bands around that time, and they did not come through Denver, and that like crushed me because that was going to be one of the best concerts
Right.
I think
Right.
I would have ever gone to.
So it's you wanted that concert back
Yeah, I would
in
love it, but I mean,
2021.
but Nevermore,
Oh,
broke up a
yeah.
while ago. But yeah, I think that would have been so cool. I think I was like 15 at the time, and that was gonna be like my dream lineup there at least. I haven't really thought about like, 'cause there's a lot of genres that I like.
Yeah.
Now, so it's I haven't thought a lot about like what would be like the pinnacle of
Right.
all of my favorite bands. So I can,
And why would they be touring together?
Right.
And I think we're just about out of time, but we didn't get to talk much about Silva, so I would like to talk a bit about that. So yeah, funk, pop.
Yes.
There's an edge there though.
Yeah, so Silva is my pop funk project. Play around with in Denver. The Siberian Suns drummer is actually the singer in that band, and it really kind of takes pretty much like all my like non-metal influences and kind of like blends them together. Like
Okay.
I'm really into like funk and like Jamiroquai I think is a big influence there. We really like I think like Muse, but we do have like a little like a progressive rock touch to it, right? Because all of the members in Silva are like progressive rock musicians, so it's
Right.
just not hard for that energy to not leak out in one way or another, right? But yeah, so it's we have an album called Come Alive. It's on Spotify. You can go to silva.band, silva.audio, I think. Should provide you a link to the album.
SYLVA.
SYLVA.
And that should be. I think that should be in the chat.
Cool.
Right here. So you said you can find that on Spotify and Bandcamp.
Yeah, it's Spotify, Bandcamp. I think it's pretty much on all the major major services.
All right. Yeah. Where else can we find you, Tony?
I am on Twitch. I used to stream covers, but the music labels, as I think many Twitch streamers are aware of, have gotten a lot more aggressive with that. So I got to figure out what I'm gonna live stream. But I am on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Tony Dickinson. I am on YouTube, youtube.com/Tony Dickinson BG. Tony Dickinson BG on Instagram. Tony Dickinson BG on Twitter. Tony Dickinson Music on Facebook, and then TonyDickinson.net is my primary website and should have a link to all that
everything
stuff.
there. So. Great. Tony, thank you very much for being here
having
today.
Me.
This has been a lot of fun. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to chat again. If you want to hang on the line there for just a moment.
Sure.
I'm going to say farewell to the chat. We're going to have our final giveaway right now. So Tony, again, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks,
talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody else at home right now, we are giving away our second Ernie Ball prize pack of the day. So if you are in the chat, please listen to UbiJurassic for your instructions on how you can win everything that you now see on your screen. You get 2 sets of strings for Ernie Ball. You're going to get a dozen picks from them, plus 3 Spectrum Plectrum picks from us here at Rocksmith. You'll receive a black Ernie Ball guitar strap, as well as a peg winder and a package of Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes. All of those will be sent to you if you are a winner. Once we return to the studio, still don't have an estimated time for when we'll be back there, but we are holding on to that information so that when we are back, we can ship all of that out in one fell swoop. We do ship internationally, but if you're not in the U.S., please split up your address line by line when Brian asks for it. So good luck on that. And thank you all for being here. Thank you to Brian for being our performer this week. And we will see you all very soon.